Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Congregation Beit Tikva, the House of Hope. We're happy to have you with us from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hope you have a prayer book, or if not, just join along with us. I'm sure you know many of the beautiful melodies and the traditional prayers for this Shabbat service. We welcome Wendy and Alma Dankoff, our flautists, clarinetists, and also Jolene Gear on the piano. Thank you so much, and Lela, who is recording this service for us. So we begin with a duet, the music from Erev Shel Shoshanim, the Evening of the Roses. And if you want to follow the words, it's in the middle of page 654. Let's turn to the words of Shalom Aleichem, and we'll enjoy another beautiful duet for the traditional Shabbat melody, Shalom Aleichem. Please turn with us now to the blessing over the Shabbat candles. We're on page 121 in our Siddur. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. We sing together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehad ligner shel Shabbat. Let's turn to a meditation for this Sabbath evening. We're in the middle of page 124. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. We continue with L'chud Naranana, the first of the Psalms that welcome the Sabbath day. Psalm 95, we're on page 130 in our prayer books. We'll sing together. Together on the bottom of the page. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai, raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings. In God's hand are the depths of the earth. The peaks of the mountains are God's. God's is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel, bend the knee before Adonai, our Maker. For Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. Let's read from Psalm 96. We'll turn the page. We're on the top of 132. Sing to Adonai a new song. Sing to Adonai, all the earth. Sing to Adonai, bless God's name. Proclaim God's victory day after day. Tell of God's glory among the nations, God's wondrous deeds among all peoples. For Adonai is great and much acclaimed. God is held in awe by all divine beings. All the gods of the peoples are mere idols. But Adonai made the heavens. Glory and majesty are before God, Strength and splendor are in God's temple. Let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and all within it thunder. The fields and everything in them exult. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy at the presence of Adonai, for God is coming. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and his peoples in faithfulness. Those last few lines, those last words, are an intimation of the coming of the Messianic time. And since Sabbath is considered a foreshadowing of the Messianic era, that is why the words of that psalm are part of our liturgy. So we turn now to one of our favorite Shabbat melodies, Lela Dawkins. Let's turn to page 138, and we'll sing together verses 1, 2, and 9. Let's turn a few pages to 144. We come to the marker, the Chatzi Kaddish, the half Kaddish, which tells us we've completed the preliminary psalms and we're ready for the essential prayers of the Sabbath evening service. Let's all sing together. We're on 144. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabba Yamad Ivrach Yiruteh Gamlich Malchuteh B'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Agala Agala u'bizman kariv Imru Amen Yesh me'Rabba mevorach Le'ala me'amaya Yitbarach Yitbarach v'yishtabach Tushabrichu, Lela Minko Birchata, Veshirata, Tushlichata Benen Kemata, Damiram Yama, Imru, Amen. We turn the page, lift our voices together for the singing of the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Amorach, Baruch Adonai Amorach, Leolam Vaed. Let's continue in English. We're in the middle of page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night, distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Haravim. The second blessing, known as Ahavat Olam, for God's love of the world and our Jewish people. Let's read this special poetic rendition in the middle of page 151. Page 151. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. All the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works, and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We turn the page. Let's sing together Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod, Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. So if you've been standing, please be comfortable, sit down, relax. We continue now with the Ve'ahavta, the passage from Deuteronomy chapter 6. We're on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, v'v'lechtecha b'aderech, v'v'shachbecha v'v'kumecha, v'v'shartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, v'uktabtam al mezuzot beitecha, v'v'sharecha. Leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'yitem kedoshim le'lohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem, me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. We're reading on top of page 157, 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Let's sing the Micha Mocha with our wonderful instrumentalists. We're on page 158. Turn to the beautiful blessing, the Hashkivenu, asking God, beseeching God that we may lie down in peace on the Sabbath, protect us from the dangers of the night, protect us from dangerous angels, and keep with us a sense of hope and courage for the coming day. We're on 160.
Yes.
Please turn with us. We're on 162, and we're going to do whichever one is. In the middle of 162 are the wonderful words Yismechu, 24 Hebrew words corresponding to the 24 hours of the Sabbath day. In the middle of 162. Yes. So we enter into the 7 blessings, the 7 special blessings for Sabbath Kabbalat Shabbat service. We're on 164. If you're comfortable and able, stand up for the opening 2 blessings. We sing first the verse from Psalm 51 together. Adonai sifatai tifta ufi agiti latecha. Adonai, open up my lips and my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avodeinu mimateinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Yeronei Yaakov, Zocher Chaskei Avot Imahot, Ulevi Kulam, Bnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Hoshia, Mechakel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Tzomech Noflim Berofech Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayeh Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Ichamocha Yal Yurot, Umidom Elav, Melech Nemit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiah Yeshua, V'nemanata V'chayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. In the middle of 170, the 3rd blessing. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated, be comfortable. Let's turn to the middle of page 175 for the blessing called the Ritzeh. We're beseeching God, asking God on behalf of our people to consider our deeds and our prayers that we may always serve God in reverence. Middle of 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, shotcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. And the blessing for Thanksgiving, we are on 177, top of the page. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, with the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulecha na'eh lehodot. So we come to the seventh blessing, the most beautiful words of Shalom Rav, that we are granted peace, not just for the Jewish people, but for all peoples. And it's not just an outward, external peace, it's an inward peace, a sense of wholeness and completeness for the Sabbath day. Page 178. As we do every Sabbath evening, we think of our loved ones, our family members, our dear friends from this congregation, our friends around the country and our family everywhere, and ask God to give us an extra blessing, an extra measure of healing and strengthening of our bodies, our souls, and our minds. So if you'll turn with me in the prayer book to page 371 are the words for the beautiful melody. Before we sing together, we want to think of our friends, congregants, and loved ones, as I said. First of all, remembering our cantor, Ephraim Herrera, as well as his father, Eliodoro Herrera. We're also sending our blessings, asking for blessings for our dear friends, Doreen Hertig, Lynn Kelly, Flo Vinnick, Arlene Vinnick, and Bonnie Cantor.
Deborah Gallegos.
And our friend also, Deborah Gallegos, who helps us in this congregation. So let's lift up our voices. We're in the middle, 371. We'll sing together, Mishaberach Avotenu. Avotenu, us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
Bless those in need of healing with
Throughout Shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. So last Shabbat, we began the Torah story about creating a Mishkan, a sanctuary in the desert, a portable sanctuary that would be carried on the shoulders of the Levites, and it was a visible token of God's presence in the universe. As God says, let them build for me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them, that God's inner light or external light will shine forth into the physical world. It's a way of saying that we have to lift up our own souls and elevate our souls towards God, and God, in a sense, comes down, descends from on high to reach us. So this Torah portion, Tetzaveh, is a continuation of that architectural discussion, that technical discussion about how to build a sanctuary. What do you need in a sanctuary? Not just a portable building with curtains and rods and loops, metal loops to hold the curtains, but also it says in Tetzaveh, Tetzaveh, by the way, means you're commanded. It comes from the verb tzivah, to command. You need a ner tamid. You need an eternal flame within the sanctuary. And it continues after a discussion about the ner tamid, which I'm going to talk about for just a moment. There's a long explanation of what the high priest and his family wear, namely Aaron, right? Aaron, at this point, so to speak, takes a step above Moses and is anointed as the high priest. He has to wear a choshen mishpat, a breastplate of judgment. He wears a long tunic called an ephod. He has a sash, a belt, we call it, to separate the holy part of the body from the less holy. He wears a mitznefet, a special headdress, which is another way of thinking about the spirituality of the mind and the consciousness, which has to be lifted up to God. It's just an amazing story. I want to talk about our beautiful Ner Tamid, which we've had in this sanctuary for many, many years, thanks to the kindness of Connie and Stuart Rosenberg. So why do we need an eternal light inside the building? Think of it in the ancient world. That portable sanctuary was kind of dark, perhaps many times during the course of traveling through the desert. But my question is, why does God need a light in the sanctuary? God doesn't need lights. God is the source of life, right? The source of light. And God is not afraid of the darkness, as my Sunday school kids used to say to me sometimes. So what's the real reason for a Ner Tamid? One way of understanding it is it was not so much a need of the divine, but it was a way of assisting the Jewish people to, as they say, draw closer to the divine. According to the Midrash, it's one of the Midrashim, it says very specifically, God doesn't need a light, a Ner Tamid, but wanted it to be there in order that you and I may give light back to the divine, just as the Almighty gives us inspiration and life every day of our lives. So then the Ner Tamid, this lamp, becomes a symbol of partnership. It becomes a symbol, a paradigm of the coming together in a relationship between the eternal and the temporal. We Jewish people are temporal. We live, we grow, we thrive, and we die. But there's always going to be that partnership. Another way of explaining the importance of this Ner Tamid is to say this was God's public relations gift to the Jewish people, to put it in very mundane terms. In other words, Israel gives light to the one who illuminates the whole world. Israel gives light to the one who illuminates our entire world. What does that mean? It means that God is not just giving us inspiration and creative energy for us, the Jewish people. Actually, God is there for everyone. God gives inspiration, life, and strength to all peoples in the universe. It's a way of saying that anyone who's interested in Judaism can actually learn about Judaism and draw closer to the divine. There is yet another way of explaining the importance of this Ner Tamid. It teaches us that the words of Torah emit light to those who study them. You know that Torah technically means that which is thrown out or cast out, like teaching. But there are many other interpretations, since the word Torah sounds like or, sounds like the word for light, that Torah is really the unbelievable generative source of all light in the universe. In other words, if not for our Torah, how would we be a Jewish people? What would we know? What would we learn? What would be the essence of our thinking, our culture, all of our intellectual pursuits for the last 3 or 4 millennia? So I think we could take all of those ideas about light and say the following. This is a famous phrase from the book of Proverbs. The nefesh of a person, the soul of a person, is the lamp of God. The nefesh, the soul of a person, is the light from God. It's, in case you want to look it up, it's in Proverbs chapter 20. It's one of those magnificent phrases. It means that every person, every one of us has an eternal lamp inside of our soul, inside of our heart. And that soul emits not only energy, but it emits the light of consciousness and the light of doing good deeds. It's not just about keeping ourselves going, it's about keeping ourselves going for a real purpose. Why do we get up in the morning? Is it only to have a nice breakfast and perhaps go out and exercise or do something fun or study our favorite our favorite pursuit, or pursue music, dance, whatever, poetry, painting? It's more than that. It's that we get up in the morning in order to do good deeds. We get up in the morning in order to help the world. So that is the light. The soul of each one of us is like a light. So even though we just finished Purim, I hope you celebrated last night, Thursday night, at home, and maybe had a little schnapps or something good, or grape juice. We're allowed. I just want to say a few words about Purim because we couldn't actually celebrate in the sanctuary together. So Purim is a festival of happiness and sadness. We're commanded to be happy for the Purim days. We're commanded to be happy actually for the whole month. But as a matter of fact, the rabbis weren't always so happy with the story of Purim. In fact, as late as the 2nd century of the Common Era, some of the great sages in Palestine didn't think the book of Esther, the story of Esther, should be in the Bible. They thought it was kind of a wonderful historical, parable, but it seemed as though God wasn't really there in the crux of the whole story. And there were those Tanaim who said, no, we should leave it out of the canonized Bible, the Hebrew text. Nevertheless, popularity won out. And I want to say this about Queen Esther. Without Queen Esther, we might not have a significant chunk of our Jewish world still existing in the Middle East. I mean, Queen Esther was facing a potential Holocaust. And thanks to her courage and her seichel and her connection with her uncle Mordechai, they leaned on this king who wasn't perhaps the smartest crayon in the universe. And Achashverosh realized that Haman was truly the bad guy, right? What I'm saying is, this is an example of, at times, our Jewish people have faced extermination. but for the courage and the insight and the strength, the resilience, the light of Esther and Mordecai, perhaps we might not be here. So I hope that you remember why we're celebrating Purim. I hope you had a good Hamantash somewhere. And now that we're in Shabbat, may you all be blessed with courage, with light, with insight, with love. Shabbat Shalom. Before we come to our concluding prayers, just a few short announcements. Tomorrow morning we have Torah study at 9:30. Everyone is welcome to join us on Zoom. Next Shabbat, Cantor Ephraim will be with us and singing all kinds of fantastic music and accompanied by Wendy and perhaps Alma. It would be really great. So we are always delighted when Cantor Ephraim is with us. Do we have any other special events for the coming week?
The old Purim video from 2019 is available.
Yes, thanks to Wendy and his computer expertise. You can look on our weekly blurb, on our weekly
update that went out yesterday.
Weekly update went out yesterday, Wednesday morning, and
Has a picture of the tropical paradise that was us a couple of years ago, and you can replay the
thanks to you.
The wild story of.
Thanks to Mark Sanders, who transported Purim to Polynesia, the South Sea Islands.
South Pacific.
South Pacific.
South Pacific.
We celebrated with South Pacific, so watch that on your computer. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate everyone's support, and you're always welcome to find out more about Beit Tikva at beitikvasantafe.org, our website. Let's go to our final prayers. We're on page 586. And if you're able, please stand for the Aleinu in the middle of page 586. Aleinu l'shabech l'adon l'kol, v'teinu l'yotzer b'reshit, shelo tzam k'goyei haratzon, v'lo tzam manu k'mishpachot adam ba, shelo tzam avinu kahem, v'kol aleinu k'chol amonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim, Livnei Melech, Malchei Amachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ne'emor v'haya Adonai, v'melech kol haaretz, v'yom ha'hu, yeh Adonai echad. Ushemo, Echad. As we consider those who have passed from our midst, our loved ones, we remember not only those whose lives have recently been taken from us, but we remember all those who have died at this season in years gone by. Those whom we draw into our hearts as our very own. Zichronam livracha, may they all be a blessing to us. On this Shabbat, the Yahrzeit Memorial being remembered, we recall now Milton H. Edelman, father of Michael Edelman. We also remember William Gear, father of Robert Gear, and Daniel Prindable, father of Peggy Myers. Are there any other Yahrzeits to be recalled this day? So the Kaddish prayer is on 598, page 598. If you're able, please join us and stand for the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'yamad yibrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael. B'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עמי עמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתנער ויתעלה ויתעלל, שמי קודשה ברכו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה. תאמירם בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen. May the Holy One who brings harmony to us, bring peace to our world, to all those in Israel, all those throughout our country. We say together, amen. Ose shalom b'romav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Please lift up the cup of wine with us, with me, please. The the words for the Kiddush are on 123. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei b'riat ha'ofen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzon banu. Shabbat kasho v'ahava v'ratzon, intilanu, zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit, kihu yom tehilah l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziah Mitzrayim, kiwanu l'chata, yotanu kilashta, v'kol ha'amim, v'shabbat koshecha, v'yava v'ratzon, enkatanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Shabbat. Amen. L'chaim, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.